Good evening everyone and welcome to Seaford Town Council Planning and Highways Committee, the first meeting of this new year, so I wish everybody a happy new year and a healthy one. Right, just got to go through some house rules, please, if you bear with me. Thank you to all members of the public, councillors and officers who are joining us today's meeting. Councillors and officers are reminded to their commitment to civility and respect pledge and to be mindful of this during tonight's meeting. Please be aware that the council is video recording this meeting and this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Was it on? Yeah. I would just like to highlight some key points of the meeting format. Please can I ask everyone to have their phones turned off and set to silent. The fire exits are via the doors out of the chambers and down the external fire escape stairs or via the main entrance that you entered the building through. In the event of a fire, the lift should not be used. The assembly point is outside the Royal Mail Parcel Office on West Street. Please remain seated unless you are invited to speak or need to take a comfort break. Toilet facilities are out in the corridor you entered through. Members of the public are invited to participate in the meeting with the key points as follows. Public participation is limited to the maximum of 4 minutes per person and must be relating to an item of business on the agenda. As Chair, I will interject if needed to enforce this. For those looking to speak specifically about a planning or tree works application on the agenda, you will be invited to speak immediately before the committee considers that application. For those looking to speak on non-planning application business, you will be invited to speak during the public participation agenda item. Please raise your hand to show you wish to speak and I will invite you to speak. If you are comfortable standing, please do so to ensure that you can be heard across the room. You do not need to state your name when you start speaking if you do not wish to, but we ask that you clearly state which agenda item you are speaking about. I would ask that participants looking to leave the meeting wait until the end of an agenda item to limit distraction for other participants. Members of the public looking to leave the building will need to be escorted out by a council officer. We won't go to that. To all present, please remember to show respect to others in the meeting and avoid interrupting where possible to enable others to follow the meeting. If any councillor feels concerned about any aspect of the meeting or discussion, please clearly state point of order. I will then gesture for you to elaborate. If anyone present is felt to be behaving unacceptably, they can be ejected from the meeting by resolution. Thank you for listening. On behalf of the Council, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this Town Council meeting. Thank you. We'll go on to our agenda. Item 1, apologies for absence.
No apologies received.
Item 2, disclosure of interest, to deal with any disclosure by members of any disclosable pecuniary interest and interest other than pecuniary interest as defined under the Seaford Town Council Code of Conduct and Localism Act 2011 in relation to matters on the agenda. I'd like to mention that though the members of the Conservative Party I'm not a member of the Constitutional Club. Just be noted.
To check, has it got no links to the Conservative Club?
No.
Anyway,
It's a Constitutional Club. People think because you know
used to be,
you automatically become a member, but you don't.
Okay.
And I just want to make that clear.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 3, public participation. To deal with any questions or brief representations from members of the public in accordance with relevant legislation and Seaford Town Council policy, In accordance with Council policy, members of the public wishing to speak on individual planning applications may do so immediately before each planning application. So at this point, on non-planning applications, no. Okay, so we're moving on to planning applications received in the week commencing Monday the 2nd of December. LW/24/0757, The Shore, 7 Dane Road, conversion and extension of pub to form private members club and 7 self-contained flats. Anybody would like to speak on this agenda application? No? Open to the committee. Councillor Richard Hanman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the premises have been more or less empty since it came up briefly after the pandemic, so it's been empty probably like a couple of years or so now. So I would welcome something happening on this particular site, and I'm sure there's been plenty of interest on this particular prime location, and I know there's also been a couple of flats being used as well. The alternative, the 4-storey height, I agree with the pre-planning that is definitely too high. So yeah. I'd sort of, with a little bit of trepidation, I do sort of support the principles of this particular development. So I'll see what the others got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're proposing?
Yeah, I'll propose for what's there. Yeah, support. Yeah.
Does it find a seconder? Councillor Lord. Any other comments? Councillor Livington.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Honeyman that I think if it had been an extra storey on top, that would have made it a bit too big. Whereas I think just having the extra floor. I was actually curious because that says Weatherstone Properties. Is that the same people who are doing the Churchill? The Churchill application as well. Because it says Weatherstone Properties for this one. And then the Shore is Weatherstone Properties Limited, and it's
the consultants.
Yeah, Weatherstone for the other one as well, for the con. I just wondered if they were the same thing. Yeah. But yes, I think this would be good for the area, and I mean I know there was one objection which I looked at the other day, and I just said about lack of parking. Yeah. But I think that's not really a reason to turn it down, because there is parking around, there's car parks around, there is parking around.
It's been a public house for
many years. And it's been a pub for a long time, so.
Yeah, just to you, Chair. I support this application 100%. What we've got now is a derelict property, which sooner or later is going to fall into disrepair because its location close to the seafront. And it's been boarded up now for 4 years, I think. And it was supposed to be a doctor's surgery, if I remember rightly, when the doctor's surgery behind the schools wanted to move in there. We found it too costly to convert, and it didn't fit their purposes. So that's why they got more porta cabins around the back of the old school surgery. If we don't propose this, what else can it be? There's nothing else it can be. It's either going to be another venue in the town, which, if it's a decent one, should be okay. And it brings 7 flats into use, whether they're for rental or for purchase. I suggested for rental. And I support this application, and the sooner they start the better, because it's just an eyesore when you come into town from the A25 down to the station roundabout.
Yeah. The only comment I would say is that it would be nice if we saw some solar panels on it, as it's as we're sort of leading that way these days.
It's a different location, Chair, because it faces due south, and because it's shaded on both shaded on the south elevation, we have to have solar panels on the east and west elevation, and basically it only gives you 50% maximum input because the orientation of the property. If you have a large flat roof perhaps, then you can get away with it, but it's 50% in the morning and 50% in the afternoon. It's just unfortunate. It's orientation towards the south.
Anyway, suggestion.
Good suggestion.
Okay. Councillor Richard.
I mean, what I think about sustainability, if, they obviously need a full 70-page transport plan about Seaford in there, which could be useful. Quite a lot of information there for other planning applications, just for interest. I thought it was quite interesting as well. But I mean, the scope of doing heat pumps while we're at it, I'm not sure. I couldn't see anything on the book.
No.
I don't know if it's outside the scope of that. If they do it, I'd be obviously. I think we'd all be more happy doing it now while you're doing the conversion.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can force them, can we? We can't really say that.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah. I'm still happy, but
Yeah.
some of the sustainability green issues would be good if we could extensiate that, if that's ideal.
Yeah. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. Just following up on the solar panel thought, this is north here according to the drawing.
Yeah.
So the back of the roof is substantially south facing.
It's in shade.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, yeah.
It's in shade.
In the shade? From what?
I'm building the right hand side of it.
Well,
Well, first condition.
Anyway, we propose to support this application by Councillor Honeyman and seconded by Councillor Lord. Can I have a show of hands supporting this application? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Sorry, just through you, Chair, so just we're adding to that the suggestion for solar and for looking into
Heat pumps.
water heat pumps.
Yeah, green.
Yeah,
But then, yeah, that's sort of a.
Ground source heat pumps.
Yeah.
LW stroke 24 stroke 0758, the Seven Sisters, Wolfriston Road, replacement windows. Any members of the public like to comment on this application? Open to the committee. Councillor Richard Honeyman.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I walked past it yesterday, the property. This is basically on the main building. It would help with this being consistent in type of windows. It's going to actually have, I think we're concentrating more on the maisonettes really at this stage. There's an awful lot of work still to be done on the whole site as a by-the-by, but I think they're getting on with it. And so I'd support what they're trying to do. So I'd propose if you're happy.
Thank you. So find a seconder. Councillor Buchanan. Any other comments? Can I have a show of hands supporting this application? And that's unanimous. Planning applications, Monday the 9th of December, there were no application received. So we go on to planning applications received in the week commencing Monday the 16th of December. And this is LW stroke 24 stroke 0778, Seaford and District Constitutional Club, Crouch Lane. Redevelopment for retirement living accommodation comprising of 44 retirement apartments, including a communal facilities, access, car parking and landscaping. Any members of the public like to comment on this application?
You go first. Thank you, and thank you for your help last time. A few things I want to say first of all is community engagement. I am not happy that Lewes District Council did not inform us immediately that it was coming through. Letters were dated December the 20th, and I only found out about it the day before through Christine Brett, a Liberal Democrat. And in terms of notification for the public, as far as I know, up to yesterday, the planning notice wasn't on the lamppost. It is there today, not at all over Christmas, because I was looking out for it. In terms of Churchill, I rang them up about the planning. The lady I spoke to suggested I went online and read 40 documents of 40 pages each. And she basically said, I don't know why you're complaining, we've got planning permission. So it was not a very good conversation, so that really did not help the situation. And she said they had 6 replies, what they sent out, 5 online and 1 written, which was mine, for personal reasons. And she said nobody was disagreeing, because we didn't have any responses, nobody's disagreeing with it, they must like it and want it, which I think is a patronising statement. I have registered my complaints online for Lewis District Council for some of the same issues as before. One of the key ones is the Planning Inspectorate report dated August the 31st, 23. There were 32 schedules of conditions that had to be met before anything was passed and anything was built. Now, who is monitoring that is happening? 32 conditions, and they include things like asbestos, the whole issue of the building regulations and the transport that's going to be needed, up Crouch Lane, which has already got a problem again at the bottom of it. There's huge issues locally for it. Are we going to be informed how these conditions are being met? What she did say to me, the planning lady at Churchill, she said, "Oh, you've got a new path." I said, "Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Now you want to build here, there's a new path that somebody's built, East Sussex Highways or Lewis District Council. But it's not made anything any safer for people crossing the road up there, and that is a major concern." Only 6 months ago, Churchill had somebody taking photographs around that area, so I happened to come out of the flats, and 2 hours later when I came back, because I'd let him into our gardens to take photographs, he said he'd nearly, and I'm not joking, this is what he said to me, "I've nearly got run down twice." And that is a major concern. Who's going to be held responsible if anything happens, if they get passed? And yes, we've already had one inquiry. That was not a pleasant process, and we all did our best, but you generally felt when you're looking at 6 grey uniforms with no eye contact, there's no moral compass in all of this. Can I also ask, with the current situation, which we picked up on yesterday and today, about whether or not there's now a mayor for the whole of Sussex and everybody gets together, what is happening to these plans? Are Lewis District Council going to just push them through so it's something they can tick off? Or are we going to be going through a whole process of a big government change, whether you agree with it or not? We seem to be in limbo, but I just get the impression there's pressure coming and this attitude, it's going to go ahead. I still have a huge belief that we need social housing or housing for young people who can afford it. Yes, all well and good, retired people selling their houses and moving into some retirement flats, where there are many for sale in Seaford, but the houses they're letting go, first-time buyers can't afford those, and we have none of that here. And whatever happened up at Newlands, I gather there's not much in the way of social housing and low cost. So if that could be thought of, please. I have got other things on there. We do have badgers. We've had a family of badgers over the autumn and early winter. We have a family of foxes, and we'll go through all that. We have birds, etc. We've got 2 blackbirds that appear at 8 o'clock at night. And when they're having the young ones, only one appears. And you start watching all of this. All this building work is going to cause problems. So there's huge issues there. And I would just hope that Seaford Town Council would take that into account. And I will add, they put up 40. It looks like, well, it's probably slightly better than prison. But Churchill have put 44. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
You sure?
Yeah, go on.
Hiya, thank you. I looked on Rightmove, I said this before at the first meeting about the Churchill development. I can't remember when that was, so I apologise.
No, fine.
But I said this before and the figures have gone up. There's one retirement property to rent and there's 48 up to buy. That was as of 1:30 this afternoon when I looked. My major concern is, and I'll back Connie up on this, the junction with all the heavy constructive workmen's diggers and everything, sorry I don't know the correct wording. When I mentioned this before, the gentleman, sorry I can't remember his name, said that they'd have to get a section something. I would like to know if possible, because the road is so narrow, what exactly that would mean, if you can help me on that, if it goes through the section. If it's because the road's so narrow, it was brought up, if emergency vehicles want to come through, I think it was something like a two-way system, possibly, but it was certain.
Yeah, it'd be, I'm not sure, you know, exactly what.
No, it's fine.
You know, they obviously would have to put in a detailed building construction programme for the site, which probably will include traffic control.
Yeah.
But that will definitely need to be part of the application if it gets passed.
Yeah.
And in the, you know, sort of conditions, be one of the conditions, which if Lewis was minded to pass it, then the officers would put in conditions, and building management would be part of it.
Yeah. I understand there's a traffic person on the planning committee. It's all part of the planning team. I don't think he'd be pleased, myself, because this has come up before, many years ago, with Seaford Constitutional Club when they tried to build something there, and part of the refusal was from the planning traffic person. He wasn't happy with it, and the concern was the width of Crouch Lane for the builders' equipment and everything.
Like Sussex Highways.
Yeah.
That report.
The other thing, just quickly if I may, the kids. There's several schools down on Stone Road, Annecy, Seaford Head, Sixth Form Centre, Seaford Upper School as well. They whiz around on their scooters and bikes. They both go down Crouch Lane and other roads adjoining onto that, and they whiz down there. It's an accident waiting to happen, and I think it's just wrong, basically. I wouldn't like any child of mine to go around to work a site that big. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thanks very much. I'm Councillor Carolyn Lambert, and this application is in my ward. So regrettably, this is another example of the deliberate targeting of Seaford by a provider of retirement accommodation. And as we've heard, Seaford is already over-provided for with this type of accommodation. It's seriously lacking in homes for families and young people. And indeed, the proposed development is only yards from two other large blocks of flats for older people. Our infrastructure is becoming more and more compromised, with water and sewage at capacity and regular gridlock on the A25 line, which is one of only 3 roads in and out of the town. And perhaps most serious of all with this development is the pressure on our health services. Residents regularly complain about difficulties in getting GP appointments and long waits for services such as blood tests. And we know that older people inevitably place more demand on health services, and ours are in danger of becoming overwhelmed. So I would like to know how Churchill justify their statement that living in this accommodation will actually reduce people's health needs, because that certainly hasn't been the experience with other similar developments. Now, the proposed development is situated in an already congested part of town with problems with parking, as we've heard, and this will only exacerbate an already difficult situation. Traffic movements in and out of Crouch Lane are also a safety issue. There are no pavements on much of Crouch Lane, which means that anyone with mobility issues or using a mobility scooter, or indeed parents with pushchairs, for example, will have to use this narrow lane along with pedestrians, including those going to Seaford Head School. And the proposed development will overshadow neighbouring properties, and it's an overdevelopment of this part of Seaford, which still retains some of its historic buildings. And there is sarsen stone adjacent to the site, which may also be an indication of other archaeological remains that need to be investigated. And I'm sure the committee won't need reminding that the planning inspector at the last appeal identified in particular the lack of parking and safer pedestrian access from Stane Road as a serious harm in the last application. So residents from 44 new apartments at the moment, if this goes through, will be using Stane Road to access the seafront, which Churchill are marketing as a particular attraction for this development. And that's what all the information focuses on. So they simply haven't addressed that very serious issue. So I would urge the committee on behalf of residents to reject this unwanted, unneeded and unneighbourly development. Chair, I have been asked by a resident to read out their objection, but that is, I realise, at your discretion.
Committee happy to hear?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. And this is from residents of Crouchfield Close, Sarah Playforth and Charles Lawler. And they say, it's clear that the proposed development will overshadow our communal garden and our buildings. It will also, and particularly during the building phase, have a deleterious effect on the wildlife we enjoy observing in the garden, foxes, badgers, many birds, which are also present around the perimeter of the Con Club. During the demolition and building, there will inevitably be noise and disturbance affecting us. Increased traffic will make journeys to and from town more hazardous, and more traffic and drivers seeking parking spaces will increase noise and pollution, affecting the health of our residents. If we do have to deal with a new building next door, we would much prefer the site to be used for something of more value to the whole community than for yet another retirement complex. Seaford needs more affordable accommodation for young people, not yet another collection of expensive flats limited to only one part of the population. This area already has so many older people living here, another one feels like creating a ghetto. Another bunch of retired people who are likely not to be over 50s in good health, but to be elderly and in need of health and social care, will add pressure on those services already struggling to cope. 15 car parking spaces will not be enough to stop the overuse of parking in the immediate area, given that both the Bowls Club and the Football Club currently make use of the existing car park, as do several people who are Con Club members. Increased traffic in this area is not desirable with regard to the safety of local residents and the many school children and others who travel this route to and from home, school and town. And as an additional point, we would expect whoever builds here to ensure that the historic sarsen stone is not removed or damaged. Chair, thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you. Nobody else want to speak? Okay, so I open it up to the committee. Who would like to lead on? Councillor Olivia Hanman.
I'd like to say thank you for the points that's all been read out. I went to look at the site again on Monday, because I just had to try and have a real proper look rather than just walking past it all the time, because you just do. I'm very concerned how that's going to fit into that site. I do think something does need to be done to the site, but I really don't think this is the right thing. This is the right development for that site. It's so narrow around that area. if you do come out the barn car park, you come out, you always come out very gingerly, just to check what traffic is coming. I also think it says 44 apartments, only 15 car parking spaces. So they're obviously, presumably some people with couples, and I already know, because we've already got a residence issue going on with one of the other blocks of flats with the lack of parking. And there's too much going on in a small area. So I'm proposing to say no to this, to go against this, but it's just not right for the place. And what we need is already been mentioned, we need apartments for younger people, for more affordable apartments. We don't really need any more retirement apartments in Seaford. So I would propose that we turn this one down.
Thank you. Councillor Borman, I think you would just be quicker.
Thank you, Chair. I'm quite happy to second Councillor Honeyman's objection. Just earlier on this evening we were listening to the local plan be coming in to that for Lewis, and one of the things that they're wanting to put into it is, when they look at a planning application, is looking at whether there is the need there for it, that it needs to be diverse and varied in each location. We've already had a huge amount of retirement apartments and elderly living in Seaford already, and as one of the members of the public mentioned, the amount that there are already up for sale now is huge. We do lack those smaller first-time buyer apartments. We do lack social housing in this town. We do lack so much more that this is the wrong type of building for the area. They've already had planning approved for 40 apartments, which we objected to then, but obviously went to appeal and came through. We don't need any more. So if they want to build the 40 that they appealed and got through, that's fine, but not for a further 40 foot, another floor on top.
No. I think Councillor Richard Honeyman and then Councillor Buchanan.
I think, yes, we can obviously ignore the planning prospectus appeal notice and just pretend that didn't happen. But at the moment, it's got planning permission for 40 and this is 44. So I think you've got to be mindful of what might happen anyway if we do disagree. I'm not sure if it's going to be non-determined, it'll go to another appeal, or they use the appeal notice to make the decision based on that. I just think you're just going to be aware of that. It's got heavy weight, that appeal notice, and it's a very, very recent, so just be aware of that.
I think you've got to treat it like a brand new application.
But it's still a material consideration of a lease planning appeal, and as you know, we can present that as part of the evidence, and that's what they'll be looking at, the sister council. So I know it sounds awful that that situation applies. I don't like the top layer. I'd be more happier if we're going to accept that, to have a sort of a free more of a lower level pitch roof. Yeah, as opposed to doing it right up to the floor. If we're going to have it. But just be mindful of that. It's a very recent planning appeal, and it has significant weight. So I could support the turning it completely down.
Yeah. But the previous application also included the conclave as a community space. Yeah. So this, it is different. So yeah, Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. I just thought it'd be worth noting that we're revisiting all the discussions that we've had on numerous previous occasions, particularly the objections that the councillors raised back on 2022, I think, and then also previous planning officer quite an extensive essay on all the things that this was going against as far as Seaford was concerned. And I'd like to also just reiterate the points that have been made already about the need for a housing mix and affordable housing. And this doesn't contribute to that in any way, shape or form. So I would also be not going for this as an approval.
Thank you. Councillor Lord.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, we'll start with, the inspector brought out 32 conditions. The conditions are strictly imposed by the planning officer, and there'll be an archaeological dig on this site as a matter of interest. With regards to badgers and foxes, badgers are nomads. They will, I know this for a fact, they will dig one place 1 year, 6 months later they dig somewhere else and somewhere else. They move around. God bless them, they dig in my back garden, I can't get rid of them, but still. What we've got to bear in mind, the highways is nothing to do with planning. The highways is completely separate with regards to parking and the management of the traffic. It's not a planning issue. The construction of it is not a planning issue. It's down to the contractor to comply to various conditions imposed on him by the planning inspector with regards to constructing the property. It's not a planning condition. The health service is not a planning condition. What we're faced with here is it is a block of flats, for want of a better word. Is this block of flats suitable in this location? On the first account, you'll say no, it's not. But then what you've got to consider, under our new administration, and it's been drilled into everybody, that if it's a greyfield site, it will be built on. So no matter who opposes it, when it goes to planning inspection on an appeal, there's very little weight we can carry in refusing this particular application. We may be able to put some special considerations on it, but everybody knows here that it's a greyfield site. We've got a derelict, semi-derelict building which is falling apart again, as was the Shore Pub in the centre of town. The government is under immense pressure to build 1.5 million new properties. It doesn't specify what properties they are. There could be £1 million properties, there could be £25,000 properties. The fact is nobody's building social housing because nobody can afford it. So my view is, I'm siding with Councillor Hunham here, is unfortunately what we say here and now will bear little weight when it goes to an appeal with regards to a refusal or not. That's it.
We're saying all that, Councillor Lord. I think everybody appreciates that this site will be developed.
Yeah.
And whatever goes there has got to be right for the area.
I did say at the beginning, Chair, I said it depends what's on this particular footprint, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not in favour of it, but having said that, it's been approved, an appeal has been done once, nobody else has come forward. So sooner or later it's going to be redeveloped in one form or another.
Yeah. I think, like I said, you know, we're not arguing that it shouldn't be developed, it's got to be the right development. And personally, I feel that it is an overdevelopment. Like Councillor Richard Hanman says, I don't like all the dormers at the top. I think it's totally out of keeping to the area. And you've got to bear in mind, you've got a Grade 2 listed building opposite, and that should carry some weight, in my opinion. But and you know, I think last time we raised about the traffic issue. It is a serious problem around in Crouch Lane, an area, and I know there was one suggestion about making it one way with Place Lane and Saxon Lane.
We've discussed that before, haven't we?
Yeah, and then, so I think we're in the same general opinion. Councillor Livy Hanman, we now need what we're going to object to. So we need a sort of list. Like,
if it helps, Chair, sorry,
Yeah.
shall I read out some headings from what I've picked up from discussions from the whole meeting? So you're proposing to object, and the headings I've written down would be, I'm mainly taken from our last, but I will edit. The infrastructure and sustainability.
That's the last one.
Housing need, and for this area. Being out of character, overdevelopment, and out of keeping.
No, can pick out the
Listed
neighbourhood
building.
plan on
Yeah. Traffic and parking. And then I note from the last time, there were 2 conditions that we did also bring out, which was about the sarsen stone, and it was the construction and environmental management scheme, which I think one of the members of the public was referring to earlier, which although we don't have control over, it was something that we said was important to us to be in place. So those would be the headings that I would take and do an objection.
Development then.
Yeah, I've got that in there as well, along with the out of character, so I would take that from our neighbourhood plan. The things I wouldn't include from last time is anything that was related when we thought the con club was going to be there, because that's not a part of it. So I wouldn't be putting in there about the facilities for disabled and things like that. If there's anything else that would need to be added to that.
Do you want to mention about the wildlife?
Well, I think we should put everything in that we can put in.
So what we did last time was that came under the conditions, because that's where we said about the construction and environmental management scheme. That was to include disruption to wildlife, mitigating disruption to wildlife. So I think that would go into that.
Can I have a look on plan the actual footprint of this building in regards to the actual area it's taking up?
Because when you visit the site, it's like, how will that fit in that site?
It's quite a big
Well, that's what I'm saying when I look at the plan now. I did have a look at it, but it's easier on the big screen. Ground floor, start like that.
Might take a little moment. Oh, here we
Big
are.
document now. Yeah. So it's quite landscape on one side, isn't it? So on the actual elevation, it appears that the elevation goes up to the actual road, but in actual fact, the property is set, what, 5 metres back from the boundary on all elevations? And it looks from there, that there's, if you're looking at the top of the drawing chart, it looks like there's a footpath leading away from the properties onto the top there.
It's there already. It's there
Yeah, it's connected onto it, yeah. But it doesn't show you going onto Croats Lane, does it?
There isn't one. There's not one.
No, it's not there, no.
I think we need to mention the sarsen stone as well.
Yeah, that's what I've got that under the conditions. Also, I don't know if you want to mention, I mean, obviously you have mentioned about the footpath, but that is primarily to the town. We know that Seaford is, people will want to go to the seaside. So obviously that is why those concerns were still there. Yeah, so I don't know if we want to include that.
I would want to include that if possible, because there isn't any pedestrian access that allows them walking in the road, and then you have to take your chances.
Seven Seaford House, there is nothing there, is there really?
No.
Are you happy with all those objections? Does anybody want to add any more? Are you happy as it is? Councillor Baldwin, is yours seconded?
That's right.
Very good. Okay, shall we put it to the vote? That we object to this application on the grounds of
infrastructure and sustainability, housing need, out of character to include overdevelopment, out of keeping with the area, being opposite the Grade 2 listed building, traffic and parking, but also to include seafront access, or pedestrian seafront access, and within conditions to mention about the sarsen stone and constructional and environmental management scheme, which will bring in about wildlife, mitigating wildlife disruption.
Okay, so can I have a show of hands objecting to this application? That's 4. Those against? Those abstaining? That's 2. So that's carried. 3.
Just a thought. We made the objections of the application, but this is right for swift books.
I did
Is
put
there
that
any
down,
way-
actually. I
is there
did
any
put
way
it
of-
down, yeah.
Could you, I don't know what you said, councillor, I'm sorry.
Sorry?
The councillor said something, we couldn't hear it.
That if it was passed, that there should be introduction of SWIFT boxes.
Swift bricks.
Thank you.
Perhaps, sorry, through you, Chair, rather than saying it in that way, perhaps we would say that we would expect, it's an expectation for this particular type of development to include them,
Yeah.
so that we're not saying, please could you add them, or we're saying it would be an expectation, and we'll just keep using that wording.
Yeah.
You also use it for hedgehogs and things like that, so.
Okay.
Can I just ask one thing? Can we get clarification from LDC that they do it as a matter of right, automatic?
I think
so
they do.
we haven't got to mention it every time we have an application.
I think they do.
For what?
I
Or
don't-
for Swifts?
No, they don't.
No.
No, they don't like
It's
it.
entirely down to the planning, us raising it to them. That's it's so painful. It is.
Okay, you're
Should
quite
be.
welcome to stay, but would you like to leave at this point? That will continue with LW stroke 24 stroke 0792, 4 Salisbury Road, single storey side extension and replacement roof and alterations to fenestration of existing conservatory. I'd like to lead on this one.
Yeah.
Councillor Funnyman.
It's also those deceptive houses, aren't they? They're quite big for being, say, central. So I'd support what they've done. Actually, having said that, I didn't like the dormer in the roof, but that's just me. I didn't like the rest of it's fine. I didn't like the dormer in the roof, what they're trying to do on the fenestration. But apart from that, I'd support it. I don't know what the others think about the fenestration. But not enough to refuse it, though.
I'll support council. It is what it is. It's an extension in the roof. It's got a dormer window on it.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's not jump up and down. It's not on your face. So,
Any comments about this side extension? It doesn't look it doesn't look very appealing as it is at the moment.
That's how you see it as it's
It
existing.
looks like a shed, doesn't it?
It is, but that's how it looks as existing, and the extension is actually beyond that, towards the back of the house.
Yeah.
From what I can see.
Yeah, it all goes down the side.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's vertical rather than horizontal, the cladding.
But as I say, that's how it is as is.
So left and
That's
side, yeah,
existing.
But other than that,
it is what it is. I support
okay,
it.
so we got a proposal by Councillor Richard Honeyman, seconded by Councillor Lord. And can I have a show of hands, please? And that's unanimous. Thank you. LW stroke 24 stroke 0794, 2 Lions Place. Addition of 1 front and 3 rear dormers, an increased size of existing front dormer, installation of a log burner flue to the side elevation, reduction of existing rear conservatory and addition of rear fenestration. I'd like to lead on this one.
No, it's also because
Councillor Lord.
it would be simple to knock it down and rebuild it, I think. They're doing so much to it. And there's a lot of work on an average sized property making into a large property. And the question is, we're asking yourself, will this fit in this particular location? I'm going to ask for advice on that. Also, I don't like log burners because there's one there that goes into our house. But other than that, it's a lot of work on a small property. We can't find anything object to really, what would you say, Ryan?
We've had similar sort of things in
Oh, we have.
Marine Drive
I
and
know.
they've all
Can't stop
gone
them.
up. I thought it looked more balanced actually.
But with the log burner, sure.
Yeah. So you're proposing to support this
Yes,
application?
actually, yeah.
Does that find a seconder? Tie.
Right.
Councillor Hyman. Any other comments?
I was just going to say about the fact that I've written no plan, no front dormers, but of course it's already got one, so
You stuck with that.
And they're not, it's not, yeah, I was going to say, that's all been going through my head, I'm thinking, but they're not huge, are they?
No,
and they're not.
And then it's like, well, there's already one, so you can't really object when there's already one there.
No.
And it does make it look more balanced
It
with
does.
too. And just one thing though with the log burner, because there's been a lot of councils that are stopping them and fining people for using them gradually. So actually, is it something, I'm sure the Greens would want that at Lewis, that actually the log burner is something we could say no to.
Oh, it goes above the height of the ridge as well,
Yeah.
which one doesn't it back of our house. It's not when the wind's blowing from a northern, but when it's blown off from the sea, it blows into our back garden, it stinks, you know what I mean? But
I don't know. What's the feeling about the burner, log burner flue?
personally, I don't like it because they make my house smell, but that's just a personal opinion.
Even from there.
Oh yeah, particularly that one. No, seriously, because if they're not cleaned and make sure that the flue's clean, they burn quite irregularly and they do give off a lot of smoke. Also, they've got to have seasonal logs, which people don't tend to do that. They tend to go to local forests and just chop them, hope they'll be all right.
But there are a lot of councils starting to ban the
There
use of them. So.
There are, yeah, there are. In particular in Brighton, they've gone right against them.
Well, Brighton's smoke free now.
Yeah.
We can't.
So I don't know, I'm just saying perhaps we could raise that with the plan and say, has there any special considerations with regard to the use of log burners in Seaford? Or is there some condition which Lewis District Council are going to start bringing in to impose on log burning for us? I don't know. It'd be nice in your house, but you can just annoy the neighbours, so I think they're a bit of a nuisance myself.
I mean, basically, we're supporting the application, but we could make a comment to say,
Possibly, sorry, were you like concerns about the environmental impact?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
what I
nice,
think.
nice and
Yes.
straightforward, yeah.
Yes. So, Councillor Honeyman.
I mean, you might want to make a comment. I don't know where there's gas under heating. I've seen they got that. I know it's outside the scope of that, but they must have a little chimney for the exhaust of that somewhere. But I don't know if anyone's found it.
It's only balanced food, something like that, damn it.
I mean, you could mention. Can we mention that green credentials, as part of this while we're looking at it? I don't think enough to turn it down, but enough to have they considered the green,
Well, it'll have to apply to building regs,
Yeah, I was going to say.
so that's nothing to do with us.
No, but because essentially they're modernising updating their property, aren't they? At the end of the day, isn't it? So it probably look quite nice on one level, but as you say, as other councillors have said, is it the right spot for it? What they're trying to do,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, can I have a show of hands of supporting the application, but with the condition about the
Yep.
the flue? Okay. In favour?
Yep.
Yep. Unanimous. Thank you. Right. Planning applications received Monday commencing the 23rd of December, LW/24/0812, 1 Old Tree Parade, Broad Street, Section 73A, retrospective application for the installation of 2 refrigerated condenser units to the rear of the property. I'd like to lead on this one. Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. Being a pedantic engineer, I even scrolled through the entire acoustic report,
Yeah, that's it.
which I think I may have been the only one here that may have done that.
I've done that once before.
Oh, I would support this, no problem. Yes,
Supporting the application.
yes.
Got one comment,
Councillor
Chair.
Honeyman.
Sorry, I'm butting in. Is the height right for it, or is there a certain height it can be down at, the 2 units there, or is that perfectly acceptable? I'm just trying to work that one out.
Councillor Buchanan, do you want to come back on that?
So I'll come back on that if I may. That's fine. In terms of the performance, actually, interestingly enough,
Yeah.
the acoustic report required those units to be at that height because the original intention was to have them on the roof.
The flat roof, the
Above.
original one.
And that was causing more of an
Was
issue.
it not
with
turning
the
around 90 degrees?
I'm not sure how directional the acoustic, the noise that comes from these things is, but I mean, as far as the performance of the unit, that's fine. It's facing the car park,
Yep.
what you're going to say. I would,
And the co-op have got quite a few of them, haven't they, around the back?
Not too far away.
Okay,
Yep.
so you're supporting it.
continue to
Does that
support
find
it.
a seconder? Councillor Honeyman, and can I have show of hands, please? That's
Well, they're
unanimous.
there anyway, so.
Yeah.
Retrospective.
No one's
I was going to try not.
But I do think it was probably quite innocent on this
I do,
occasion.
yeah.
I was going to say, could we put an addition that do people actually know that they're supposed to get planning permission?
Yeah.
Is it made obvious when you buy these units, you're
Yeah.
supposed to get planning permission?
They received a letter from Lewis, so
Yeah, no, but did they, but
I see.
should it be something that the company selling them say, by the way, do you know?
Yeah.
They just want to flog them to you, don't they?
Well, I will say they acted very quickly.
Oh, I know, it's wait, so
very
we got
quickly.
it done really quickly
Yeah,
since.
so, you know, as I say, I think it was a
you
genuine...
can almost feel their rush that
Yeah.
nuts.
Planning stations.
Right, moving on to tree works. TW/24/0130/TCA 19 Blatchington Hill. And we've got
So,
seven sycamores,
yeah.
2 re-pollard, 2 old pollard in points.
They will grow like wildfire. This application on next year, I think. As soon as you go back to the pollard in points, they honestly, they grow about a foot a year. So in 4 or 5 years, you'll go back to the same, I know. So yeah, we're going to do that. But you can't cut beyond it because you're going to damage the well-being of the tree. So yeah, I support it.
Okay,
Couple
does
of
it
painful
find a
ones,
seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Olivia Honeyman, and a show of hands please. That's unanimous, thank you.
With the boundaries, don't they? Especially on that hill.
So we'll move on to agenda item 5, the update reports, which you have been asked to note. Unless you've got any questions, do you want to say anything on it?
No, I haven't got anything unless there's any questions from anyone. Obviously, just to draw your attention to the appeal, and just to make it really clear that the 28 Willow Drive trees, it was a split decision,
Yeah.
and that goes with what our comments were anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
You do not fell a healthy tree.
And do you want to formally note about Phil Road, the ongoing Fieldings wall? Do you want to note that in any way? Or just for interest, because it has been ongoing for quite a while, hasn't it, that particular property? And historically, when the property at the back was built as well, so it's been ongoing for quite a few years.
It should be open now.
But I mean, it's
We're noting the whole report.
we do anyway. Yeah, I mean, we've noted it's had a lot of activity in the last few years anyway, on it,
Yeah.
hasn't it? So.
Yeah.
Sunday got plenty of money.
Okay, so show of hands of noted report, and that's unanimous. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. I think it's 8:04, isn't it?